Hey YouTube, what's going on? Snowflake Kizimos here with another Master Duel deck profile. Today it is my normal Pendulum deck on Master Duel. A little different than the Dino Pendulum deck I've shared in the TCG recently, although I am working on a build and making that happen in this one as well. But this is more of a pure normal Pendulum strategy as opposed to just kind of a Dino combo deck with some Pendulum in it. So with that said, let's get into the cards. First up, I'm playing two copies of Sea Dragoons of Draconia. It is namely a 7 scale. I mean, it's got 200 attack and 2100 defense, but we normally don't want to be summoning this one. We want to be using it as the high scale, and it's because it has a really good pendulum effect. When a monster is destroyed by battle, you can special summon a normal monster from your hand. That combos really well with our next card, Dragoons of Draconia, which we are playing 3 of. 1800 attack, 4-star monster is decent to summon, but it's got a low scale of 2, which is nice, and a good pendulum effect. Once per turn, if a normal monster you control destroys an opponent's monster by battle, after damage calculation, you can add a level 4 or higher normal monster from the deck to your hand. So what's nice is that you can use these effects in sequence. You can add the monster to your hand, then Sea Dragoons of Draconia will allow you to summon it, which gets you an extra monster on board to push for extra damage, and you know, just keep going. Next, I'm playing two copies of Mandragon here. 2 scale means another low scale potential. Doesn't have a pendulum effect, but that's okay. It's got 2500 attack, which makes it one of the best pendulum normal monsters we could summon. They don't get any higher than 2500 attack, which is kind of one of the deck's weaknesses, but we got some cards to resolve that in here. What's nice about this card though is that it's a plant, and in this build, since we're playing there can be only one, which is a pretty crucial win con for a pure normal pendulum strat. You know, having the diversity of different types is really good so that we can have multiple monsters on the field. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Sky Dragoons of Draconia, a you know, scale 7 here, 2200 attack, pretty good. Also one of the better pendulum scale effects. Once per turn, when a normal monster you control inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can destroy a card. You can target a card on the field and destroy it. Awesome. Makes it a great card. Winged Beast, you know, definitely one of the high scales we want to see and be putting into our pendulum zone. Next, I'm playing 2 copies of Dragonhorn Hunter. It's a 3 scale, so that means you can't pendulum summon out Sea Dragoons when it's your low scale, but that's not that bad. 2300, it's got a pretty decent effect. All normal monsters gain 200 attack, and you take no battle damage from battles involving normal monsters. Not as good as, you know, Dragoons here, but definitely worth considering. The warrior type is good to have for that diversity of types. 2300 attack, pretty solid. Next, I'm playing 2 copies of Landfarincus here. It's got the 7 scale, pretty good pendulum effect. If a normal monster you control attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage. That's pretty nice to have. And of course, 2500 attack if we summon this guy out. Now this guy is also a dinosaur too, which gives us access to Evolzor Solda in our extra deck. Now, of course, and when we get Evolzor Lars, that'll be a nice boost to this deck. And one of the reasons why the Dino Pendulum version is definitely playable. But in this, still has all those benefits, and of course, just being a 2500 attack makes it one of the best. And our last monster is 2 copies of Fire Opal Head. Got that 0 pendulum scale, which is pretty nice. 2500 attack, 6 stars, dinosaur, all great. The dinosaurs are nice because it means we can play Fossil Dig and search for cars. And of course, you know, combination of high attack monsters, low scales and high scales of different types mean we can get a ton of monsters on the field. That's it for the monsters. Going into our spells here, most of it is just cards to grab other cards. I'm playing 3 copies of Summoner's Art. Adds a level 5 or higher normal monster from the deck to our hand, and it's not once per turn, so you know, this can be whichever one we're looking for. Makes it really good at getting scale set up. Next, we're playing 3 Fossil Dig, add a level 6 or lower dinosaur type monster from the deck to our hand. That lets us add Landfarincus and Fire Opal Head, so we can get access to those, which is pretty nice. Next, I'm playing 1 copy of Painful Decision, mostly only in here because you can only activate once per turn, and we have so many other searchers that I don't necessarily feel like I need to see it. But Painful Decision is nice because we can send a level 4 lower normal monster from the deck to the graveyard, and if we do add one to the same name, we can use this to add Sea Dragoons of Draconia or Dragoons of Draconia, and Dragoons of Draconia is so good that we're pretty much always using this to grab that. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. Since we're not doing a lot of extra deck comboing, we're mostly just spamming out our Pendulum Summon board and then trying to continually do that over several turns. We can play Pot of Extravagance, which just says at the start of main phase 1, banish 3 to 6 extra deck cards face down, and if we do, draw 2 cards. Those 2 cards help a lot. Can be extra, pendulum scales, extra monsters to summon, extra trap cards. So definitely something we want to see. Next, I'm playing one copy of Pendulum Treasure. Add a Pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck face up. You can only activate one Pendulum Treasure per turn, so this can just give us access to any of these guys that we want to summon on the field. Typically, you want the higher level ones so that we can play it with our next card, Piercing the Darkness. If you normal summon or special summon a non-token normal monster or monsters, you can draw one card, so that's pretty nice. We're going to be doing that a lot in a normal Pendulum deck. And when an attack is declared involving an opponent's monster and a monster you control that is level 5 or higher normal monster, or a monster that was ritual summoned or fusion summoned or exed or synchroed using a normal monster, you can make that monster gain attack equal to the opponent's monster's attack. Now that mitigates our problem of being walled off by anything that's larger than 2500, because with Piercing the Darkness, now all our normal monsters that are level 5 or higher basically get an honest type effect, which is awesome. And of course the drawing cards is nice to just keep things moving, get things cycling. Very good card for this deck. And that's it for the spells. Next, going into traps, we got to play a lot of trap card decks in this build to help kind of mitigate the weaker power of the normal Pendulum deck. First off, we got 2 Heavy Stormduster, mostly in here for Master Duel meta call here. Lots of back row decks, things like Labyrinths, lots of that going on. So we will gladly play 2 Heavy Stormduster to just destroy spell and trap cards, which is nice. It targets 2 of them and destroys them in exchange for a battle phase, which doesn't matter because we usually play it during our opponent's end phase. Next, 2 copies of Solemn Judgment, just an emergency button. If our floodgates are about to get outed, we pay half our life points, and then, of course, we can negate a summon or a spell or trap card activation. Pretty cool. Next, the one of Skill Drain. We're playing normal monsters. They don't have effects that resolve on the field, so we can turn off our effects with no problem, and Skill Drain will just destroy so many decks that we definitely got to play it. Next, 3 of Summon Limit, which works very well in this deck because Pendulum Summon, even though it may summon like 5 monsters, only counts as 1 summon. So it's pretty easy for our turn to just be a normal and a Pendulum Summon, and Summon Limit will just host so many combo decks that definitely slows the game down where this strategy will really take hold. Next, I'm playing 1 copy of Power Sink Stone. This is just my Copium Skill Drain. It becomes Skill Drain on the field once 2 monster effects resolve. So, that can mitigate really heavy combo decks from being able to fully combo off. And if they can only summon so much and not get a lot of effects, then usually I can recover. Maybe worth considering just playing a copy of Solemn Judgment since I already have a 6-shot of Floodgates. But anyway, last floodgate, and pretty much the really powerful one, there can be only one. Each player can only control 1 type of monster, and if they control 2 or more monsters of the same type, they got to send them to the grave so that they only control 1 type. Normal pendulums have a lot of different types here. We got a plant, we got a wing beast, we got a warrior, we got a dino, we got a beast warrior, we got a sea serpent. So tons of different types we can have, and a lot of other decks will just lose hard to this card while we can still summon a pretty good amount of monsters. Makes it a very powerful stun tool to lock an opponent out of the game. And that's it for the main deck. As far as the extra deck, not too important, given that it's mostly extravagance fodder, but just some things to talk about. You do see 3 copies of Stardust Dragon in here. That's because maybe I want to play Starlight Road, and I can pull Stardust Dragon out. So it's still just sitting in there. 3 copies of Evolzor Solda, which, any 2 of the dinos can make, so long as there can be only one that's not on the field. We got 2 dinos. And Land and Fire Opalhead can make Solda. Solda's pretty nice because when your opponent special summons a monster, you can attach a material from this card to destroy that monster. This card also can't be destroyed by card effects while it has material, which is pretty cool. And combos super well with Summon Limit because we can pop their special summon monster. It still counts as being summoned, so Summon Limit will, still be counted towards the limit and leave our opponent with not many monsters on board to deal with. Next, we have 3 copies of Defender of the Labyrinth. This is a really great card if we have a set of normal monsters. We get to our turn, we still have all our monsters. We can give 2 of them to make Defender of the Labyrinth, which makes non-effect monsters we control gain 500 attack, and effect monsters our opponent controls lose 500 attack. And of course, if this card in its possession is destroyed by opponent's card effect, you can target a non-effect monster in your graveyard and special summon it. It's also got the 2 good link heroes here, left and right, so you can turn 2 guys into Defender of the Labyrinth, and then of course just Pendulum summon those guys back out. We get an additional 1400 body that's boosting our guys by 500 attack and probably lowering our opponents by 500 attack. Not bad. Next, I just got 3 copies of Berserker the Tenyi. It's a non-effect that we can make with 2+ link monsters, 2+ monsters including a link monster. So Defender can link into it, and this gives us an option of something to summon if we want to play Unrivaled Tenyi, which is just a counter trap for controlling non-effect monsters. So a good option. And then Draco Masters of the Tenyi, really good card we can make in this deck because it requires 2+ monsters, including a link monster, so we might have to use Defender to go into it. Cannot be destroyed by battle with an effect monster, and if you control no other effect monsters, which normally you don't, you only control 1 effect monster at a time, you can target effect monsters your opponent controls up to the number of non-effect monsters you control or are in your graveyard. This card also has a nice 3-arrow down spread, so you can, make your link and then basically pendulum summon everyone back out that you just used, and that gives you 3 targets to pop monsters, which is pretty sweet. And that's it for the extra deck. Here's a replay to show the deck in action. I'm going first against an opponent who is playing Cybers. Pretty solid hand. I got the Dragoons of Draconia already. Fire Opal Head is nice, so I can use Painful Decision to grab Sea Dragoons. I've got the Teakboo. I've got the Metaverse, which is nice for getting out the Tenyi Field spell, which is pretty nice. I'm going to start by playing Painful Decision, pitch Sea Dragoons and Atom, set my scale here, 2 and 7. That allows me to get out Fire Opal Head, which is nice, set my 2 back row, and pass my turn to the opponent. My opponent goes, I'm going to play Metaverse, which is pretty handy because the field spell here, my non-effect monsters are unaffected by monster effects, and of course my opponent special summons an effect monster while you control this card. While you control a non-effect monster, you can draw 2. Our opponent goes into Lady Debug, and I see Microcoder, a full Cybers deck. So I flip There Can Be Only One. Probably a little bit of a misplay. I probably could have let him commit to summoning 1 more monster, special summoning it, drawing 2 off Flawless Perfection, then play There Can Be Only One. But I got a little greedy on the rip, and I wanted to get my trap cards in before my opponent scooped. Top deck the Pot of Extravagance, always the best thing to be drawing. Go into another There Can Be Only One, and Heart of the Underdog. Heart of the Underdog is actually a card I cut from the final build. It's a spell that says during the draw phase, when you draw a normal monster, you can reveal it and to draw 1 more card. I just added more Piercing the Darkness, which I found was solving the problem's main deck of, draw power and just getting walled by big monsters. So there you see the interaction there. I destroyed the monster with Fire Opal Head. Dragoons got to add Sky Dragoons, and then Sea Dragoons summoned it, allowing me to poke more damage. I, of course, am going to play Heart of the Underdog. Might as well, getting ready to draw more cards. Our opponent is going to play Lady Debug. They're going to end. And, of course, it's my turn. I draw. I reveal my normal monster to draw more cards. Summoner's Art here, which means I can grab another big monster. I, of course, am going to link these 2 away for Defender of the Labyrinth. Now I can pendulum out a bunch of monsters from my extra deck with the additional guys. Of course, I'm adding Dragoons of Draconia and special summoning, which gives me enough monsters to OTK my opponent before they draw the out to my floodgate. That's pretty much how it works. So that is it for my normal Pendulum deck. Normal Pendulum is definitely my favorite Pendulum strategy to play. I love normal monsters, so it naturally has a good home for me. It's never that strong as other Pendulum decks just because effect monsters are better than normal monsters. So you do really have to supplement it with trap cards if you're going to play this pure engine. Otherwise, you got to do something like a Dino Pendulum strat, like I've posted on the channel before, where you're mostly just using Pendulums as a way to just still summon a lot of Dinos, get out Evolzors, and then use the Pendulum Scales as a recurring engine to get monsters for a longer grind, close out a game quicker. But I still enjoy playing it nonetheless. It's very cool. I love playing it. It's just cool that so many specifically of the normal Pendulum cards are all low rarity. Summoner's Art being low rarity is nice. Fossil Dig's a bit of investment, but I already haven't played Dinos, so didn't have to spend any extra there. So just a nice little strategy to have. I appreciate everyone checking out the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.